New year, new cars, new expectations, and in FIA's case, a new year to impose and clamp down on certain rules. And 2024 won't be any different, as the FIA are going in again and are removing and changing multiple rules to make life for the F1 teams even harder. Which rules? Let's find out. After increasingly regular, and many believe frivolous, usage in Formula 1, the FIA has sought to tighten the screws on the right of review procedure. The FIA International Sporting Code includes a system that allows affected parties to apply for a ruled-upon issue to be reconsidered, albeit starting this process needs a significant and relevant new element. Right of review proposals were submitted during the season in 2023 by Ferrari, McLaren, Haas, and Aston Martin, among others. Aston Martin's plea was successful, allowing it to overturn a penalty that would have cost Fernando Alonso a podium finish by providing what stewards agreed was new and significant information. However, Ferrari's bid to overturn a post-race Carlos Sainz penalty in Melbourne was unsuccessful, with the stewards determining that Ferrari's additional evidence, telemetry, and driver statements fell far short of the relevant or material criteria. Similarly, McLaren failed in its attempt to overturn Lando Norris's Canadian Grand Prix penalty, while the Haas team's request for the stewards to reconsider the list of suspected track limits violations in the United States Grand Prix was also turned down. Gunther Steiner, the Haas team boss, came off largely pleased with the outcome of that bid, admitting his team knew it would be difficult to make it stick, but saying it was worth it for the whole of Formula 1 to highlight the track limits situation. As Haas's failed review bid did also prompt the stewards to formally criticise the track limits policing standards and tools as completely unsatisfactory. Furthermore, Steiner agreed that a protest costs a lot of money. A right of review costs very little, you have to be smart as well. It is unclear whether this was the motive, but the tightening of the right of review provisions in the newest version of the International Sporting Code, published last week, implies that a right of review will no longer cost very little. So, the FIA has formally modified its International Sporting Code to reflect changes in the right of review mechanism that Formula 1 teams may use to contest decisions. The governing body wants teams to reconsider seeking reviews by shortening the time for submitting a request and instituting a cost. The new rules apply to all FIA-sanctioned racing series, although Formula 1 instances have understandably received the most attention over the years. Previously, teams had 14 days from the end of the tournament to make a request, but that has been lowered to 96 hours, with the stewards having the option to give an additional day. The relevant section of the ISC now states, the period during which a petition for review may be brought expires after 96 hours from the end of the competition concerned, except in circumstances where the stewards consider that compliance with the 96-hour deadline would be impossible, in which case the stewards may extend this deadline by no more than 24 hours. Previously, there was no charge associated with a right of review petition. However, teams must now pay up ahead and forfeit the amount if their case fails. A new ISC article states that a request says, must be accompanied by a deposit, the amount of which will be set annually by the parent, ASN of the International Series, or by the FIA for its championships, cups, trophies, challenges, or series. In addition, the deposit must be specified in the sporting regulations or supplementary regulations of the competition. This deposit may only be returned if the right of review is upheld, unless fairness requires otherwise. In another related change, formerly only the FIA's Secretary-General for Sport could request a review on the governing body's behalf. This has now been changed so that the FIA may make such a request. The ISC has also been amended to reflect the increased fines that the stewards can now impose. The previous limit was €250,000, but it has since been raised to €1 million for Formula 1, €750,000 for other FIA World Championships, and €500,000 for any other FIA Championship, Cup, Trophy, Challenge or Series. Another ISC change is that the FIA has prohibited the use of pyrotechnics and flares at any event. The section that outlines potential rule violations now adds the possession and/or use of pyrotechnics products by participants and attendees at FIA competitions unless authorised in writing by the FIA. This action was taken in reaction to the European Union Council's decision to prohibit their usage at sporting events, which is now backed by the FIA on health and safety concerns. An article in the same section on rule violations that previously said any misconduct towards but not limited to licence holders and a list of event authorities has now been modified to just any misconduct. The appeals mechanism has been modified in separate amendments to the FIA's judicial and disciplinary regulations. Competitors can file an appeal notification immediately after an event, and then have 96 hours to determine whether or not to proceed. Even if the team decides not to continue the appeal, it now forfeits the applicable fee, which is $6,000 in Formula One. The revised rules state that the appeal deposit becomes due from the moment the appellant notifies the stewards of the intention to appeal and becomes payable on the notification of the appeal. The deposit remains payable even if the appellant does not follow up the declared intention to appeal. Furthermore, the FIA has reserved the right to look at cases when an appeal is notified but not pursued, such as where a driver may have received an advantage by starting from his original grid position following notification of an appeal. The punishment might then be imposed. Henceforth, when the appellant has received a benefit from the intention to appeal, the withdrawal request should be considered at a subsequent hearing, while thereafter, the ICA, International Court of Appeal, will then rule on the consequences and costs deriving from the withdrawal of the intention to appeal. But that aren't all the changes that are coming, as the FIA has stated that it wishes to implement a zero-notice approach for factory inspections in order to guarantee that Formula One teams follow the regulations. As F1's laws have become more complicated, teams now face a lot of constraints in terms of how they may conduct things at their own facilities. There are restrictions on wind tunnel and CFD testing, as well as how much information can be communicated amongst cooperating squads. There are also parts of the cost cap and the usage of external workers that must be followed at all times. The FIA has always had the authority to inspect factories in order to guarantee that teams are abiding with the rules. Previously, this occurred with enough warning to competitors, which of course is not ideal for the regulator in terms of detecting anyone attempting to circumvent the restrictions. However, the FIA's Director of Single-Seater Affairs, Nicholas Tombazis, has stated that the governing body want to have rapid access to a factory. "We want to go to basically zero notice," he said. "We don't think we should be just entering the door and going in, but we do think it would be right to have a process in place where we can just phone them, and somebody comes out and picks up these people and they can say, 'I want to go and see the wind tunnel' or whatever." Tombazis believed that the FIA should not be forced to wait too long outside a factory for any inspection. "About 10-15 minutes, we want to get to the point where it's really quite immediate," he said when asked about what would be ideal. "We don't have to wait at the gate for another hour or something like that." The FIA has lately increased the number of staff available to assist with such factory work, and believes it is now in a position where these inspections may be performed every couple of weeks. "We were aiming to expand it, the team of factory inspectors, for quite a long time now, but we were a bit understaffed," he told me. "We recently went to the target number of this team, and now that enables us to visit teams approximately every 2 or 3 weeks. Are you forward to these changes? I think it might be too much. Shouldn't F1 be about innovation instead of policing? Let us know in the comments down below." In other news, the FIA is still busy with its damage control from all the backlash in recent weeks, because all of a sudden the FIA has disclosed the size of its unsustainable financial hole, while dismissing former President Jean Tot's allegations that its predicament was overblown. Tot talked with L'Equipe and took aim at current President Mohammed Ben Sulayem, who has often said that he inherited a difficult fiscal deficit when he assumed office in 2021. In an interview with a French newspaper, Todd said, "Each year, the accounts have been largely profitable, except the last 2 years, marked by the COVID crisis, which could have finished the federation if we had not succeeded in quickly building the conditions which allowed F1 to be the first international competition to be organised despite lockdowns." But the FIA believes that nothing has been exaggerated, revealing that the situation of the finances when Ben Sulayem's government took over was unsatisfactory and unsustainable. According to the FIA's audited financial statements, the governing body's operational loss was €12.8 million in 2019, €22.1 million in 2020, and €24 million in 2021. The FIA's operational deficit was decreased to €7.7 million in 2022 after Ben Sulayem took charge, with a loss of €3 million expected this year. It is intended that the deficit would be decreased further in 2024 before aiming for a balanced operational performance in 2025. Hopefully the FIA will be able to get their books and rules in order soon, so we can all enjoy some good racing in 2024. Are you excited for these rule changes and the upcoming season? Let us know in the comments down below.